Today, I want to slow things down and focus on something very simple. Most people don't fail at real estate because they're bad at math. They fail because they don't know which math deserves their trust. This lesson is about the only numbers that actually matter on a first deal and how to use them without second guessing yourself. Before we look at any numbers, there's one thing that matters. Precision does not equal safety. A spreadsheet with a lot of decimals doesn't make a deal better. What protects you is the quality of the numbers you look at and the order you look at them in. A few good numbers in the right sequence matter more than perfect math. Today, we're going to focus only on the numbers that actually decide whether a deal is worth continuing and ignore the rest. You don't need more math, you need better gates. On a first deal, we're not trying to optimize returns. We're trying to make a safe decision. So we use three numbers in a very specific order. First, the gross rent multiplier to see if the deal is even real. Then cap rate to see if it works as a business. And finally, debt coverage ratio to see if someone else will fund it. If a deal passes all three, you're not guessing. You're following a process. Before we put anything into the calculator, there's one thing to understand about gross rent multipliers. The math is always the same, but the range changes depending on the type of property. With 2 to 4 unit properties, you'll usually see higher gross multipliers, and that's because these can be owner occupied. They're part home, part income, so people are willing to pay more. When you move into a 5 unit and larger apartment building, the multiplier usually comes down. These are priced as businesses, and they include management, and the numbers have to work from day one. And then, with a single family home, the multiplier is often the highest of all. These are priced for lifestyle and ownership, not for rental income. Same formula, very different behavior. That's why you always judge gross rent multipliers in the context of the property type and not in isolation. This is where we stop talking and start looking. Gross rent multiplier is the first gate because it's fast and unforgiving. All it does is connect two things, the asking price and the income. Price divided by annual rent, that's it. I'm not trying to be precise here, I just want to see if the asking price implies a rent that actually makes sense in this market. If the number is way off, I stop right here. No expenses, no spreadsheets, no emotional attachment. This gate exists to save you time and protect you from the deals that were never real to begin with. Cap rate asks one question. Does this property work as a business? This is before debt and before leverage. We start with net operating income, which is income after expenses. Then we divide that income by the purchase price, which gives us the cap rate. And the cap rate shows the property's earning power on its own. Here, the cap rate is 6.75%, and that tells us the business works. It's not perfect, it's not broken, it's just real. Direction, not perfection. And now we're ready to bring debt into the picture. This is where most people start to feel uncomfortable, expenses. Early on, these numbers are estimates. They're not meant to be perfect. Later, they're verified through rent rolls, operating statements, and lender underwriting. And if expenses are wrong, cap rate exposes it automatically. You don't have to get this exactly right on day one. The process catches the errors for you. Up to this point, we've been asking one main question. Is there a business here after the expenses? And that's what the cap rate tells you. But now the decision shifts. Cap rate tells you there's a business. Debt coverage tells lenders they'll fund it. This is where the deal stops being just your judgment and starts being evaluated by someone who puts their money at risk. And that's the handoff. At this stage, lenders are asking a very simple question. Can this property pay for its own loan? Not because they expect things to go wrong, but because they know life isn't perfect. They want to see that the income covers the debt and still has some breathing room. That's what the debt coverage ratio means. It's a minimum comfort level. It's not an opinion and not a prediction. If the deal meets that standard, it means the property is carrying itself, not you. The debt service coverage ratio asks one question. Can the property pay the loan? It compares net operating income to the annual debt service. Here, net income is $67,500 and the annual debt service is $59,877. That gives us a debt coverage ratio of 1.13. So the property does cover the debt, but most lenders prefer a wider margin, closer to 1.20. At 1.13, this deal is close, but still too tight as structured today. Up to this point, everything about this deal makes sense. The price is reasonable, the rents are real, the expenses are honest, but here's where things start to feel tight. This property is producing a 6.75 cap rate, while today's borrowing rate is around 7%. And when your cost of money is equal to or slightly higher than the return on the property, the debt service naturally compresses. And that doesn't mean the deal is bad, it means the spread between income and debt is thin. And this is exactly where many solid Los Angeles income properties land today. The asset itself works, but expensive debt makes the numbers feel uncomfortable. So the takeaway here is important. The property isn't broken, the math is just tight. And once you understand that, you stop forcing deals and you start to structure them. If the debt service coverage ratio comes up short, it doesn't mean the deal is dead. It simply means something has to change, and there's only a few real options. Option one is more equity. A higher down payment lowers the loan and improves coverage. Another option is a better basis. That's a lower price or a seller concession that improves the math. Another option is different debt. Longer amortization or interest only can ease coverage. And sometimes the option is time. Rent growth and loan amortization do the work. The key idea is simple. We don't force deals, we structure them, and with that understanding, we're ready to step back and take a look at the whole picture. You don't need 10 numbers to buy your first income property. You need 3 gates in the right order. If a deal passes all 3, you're not guessing. You're making a structured decision. And if you want to run this yourself, I left the calculator link in the description.